I don't think people understand just how close the world came to losing its humanity. This is the story of Oskar Schindler, a man who risked everything when darkness threatened to consume us all. The world was tearing itself apart. Darkness fell, not just at night, but across entire nations. In the heart of Europe, a monstrous ideology spread hatred and violence with terrifying speed. This was the era of the Second World War, a conflict that redefined human cruelty. Cities were reduced to rubble, and sirens became a daily reminder that safety was an illusion. Amidst the chaos, a silent, systematic genocide unfolded, the Holocaust. Millions were targeted for who they were, not what they had done. Jewish families were ripped from their homes, their futures stolen. Ghettos became prisons, hope a dangerous luxury, and survival a desperate struggle. In occupied Crackow, Poland, the swastika flew over Wawel Castle, symbolizing terror and despair. Here our story begins, not just of depravity, but of unexpected compassion. In the crucible of suffering, unlikely heroes emerged. This is the story of Oskar Schindler, a man who arrived in Crackow to make his fortune, but whose journey would prove that even in the deepest darkness, a single act of courage can illuminate the path for many. Oskar Schindler was not born a hero. He was a charming, risk-taking businessman, more interested in profit than principle. When the Nazis invaded Poland, Schindler saw opportunity, joining the party for access and power. He acquired a bankrupt enamelware factory, staffed it with Jewish workers for cheap labor, and profited from the system's cruelty. Yet beneath the surface there were hints of decency. He treated his Jewish accountant Itzhak Stern with respect and protected his workers from random brutality. Schindler was a man of contradictions, a war profiteer with a seed of compassion. As the horrors around him grew, that seed began to take root. Soon his choices would change not only his destiny, but the fate of over 1,000 souls. Life for Krakow's Jews became a nightmare overnight. Synagogues were desecrated, businesses seized, and families forced into a cramped ghetto. The yellow Star of David marked them for humiliation and violence. Hunger and disease became daily realities. Yet even in despair, the people clung to life, creating clandestine schools and soup kitchens. Schindler, visiting the ghetto for business, could not ignore the suffering he witnessed, the hunger, the fear, the dignity of those facing an unspeakable fate. These were no longer just workers, they were people whose plight began to weigh on him. The ghetto was a prelude to something worse, a holding pen before deportation to death camps. Each Nazi raid tore families apart, sending thousands to extermination. The ghetto was not just a prison, it was a waiting room for death, and time was running out. Everything changed for Schindler during the liquidation of the Crackow Ghetto in June 1942. From a hill, he watched SS troops massacre men, women, and children. Amidst the chaos, he saw a little girl in a red coat, a vivid symbol of innocence. The horror became personal. The opportunist in Schindler died that day. He realized his factory was the only hope for his workers' survival. Schindler resolved to use his wealth and connections not for profit, but to save lives. He would turn his factory into a sanctuary, risking everything to defy the Nazi machine. The transformation was complete. The gambler became a protector. From that moment, saving lives became his mission. He spent his fortune, risked his life, and used every ounce of cunning to shield his workers. The stakes were now human souls. Schindler was about to make the biggest wager of his life. With the ghetto liquidated and survivors sent to Plazo Camp, Schindler's mission became urgent. The camp's commandant, Amon Goeth, was a sadist. Schindler bribed him to set up a sub-camp at his factory, creating a haven for his workers. As the Red Army advanced, the Nazis began liquidating camps. Schindler devised a daring plan: move his factory and workers to Brunlitz, Czechoslovakia. To do this, he needed a list of essential Jewish workers. With Itzhak Stern, he compiled names, each one a life saved. The list included not just skilled laborers, but children, rabbis, and families, each justified as essential. Schindler spent a fortune bribing officials, buying each person from the jaws of death. The list grew to over 1,000 names, a lifeline against annihilation. When a train carrying Schindler's women was diverted to Auschwitz, he intervened, bribed, and secured their release, an almost unheard-of feat. The list was more than paper. It was a promise, a testament to Schindler's vow that as long as he lived, so would his people. Every name was a victory against the final solution. The list was life, and Schindler would stop at nothing to protect it. The journey to Brunlitz was perilous, but the new factory became an ark for Schindler's Jews. Officially, it was an armaments plant, but Schindler ensured not a single usable shell was produced. He sabotaged production, risking execution, while charming Nazi inspectors with food and drink. Life was hard, but Schindler spent his last fortune on food, medicine, and warmth for his workers. He forbade SS guards from entering the factory floor, shielding his people from brutality. When starving prisoners from another camp arrived, he took them in, risking everything. As the war neared its end, danger intensified. SS units roamed, ordered to kill all remaining Jews. Schindler armed trusted workers and prepared to defend the camp. The war profiteer had become a guardian, his list of workers, a family he would not abandon. In a world gone mad, Schindler created a bubble of humanity. In May 1945, as Germany surrendered, Schindler became a wanted man, his Nazi ties now a death sentence. On the night of liberation, he gathered his workers, announced their freedom, and warned them to stay together. The Schindlerjuden, no longer prisoners, were survivors on the brink of new lives. In gratitude, they gave Schindler a gold ring inscribed with "Whoever saves one life saves the world entire," and a letter testifying to his actions. Overwhelmed, Schindler broke down, lamenting he could not save more. Dressed in prison garb, Oskar and Emily fled into the night, fugitives from the very forces that had liberated his people. Behind them, a community of 1,200 souls owed their existence to his courage and transformation. The war was over, but Schindler's struggle was just beginning. His legacy was now in the hands of those he had saved. The world would soon learn of the man who risked everything for others. After the war, Schindler's heroism was known only to those he saved. To the world, he was just another former Nazi. He and Emily tried to start over in Germany and Argentina, but failed business ventures and poverty followed. Haunted by his past, Schindler drifted, supported by the Schindlerjuden, who never forgot him. In 1962, Israel honored him as righteous among the nations, and he was celebrated by survivors and their families. These visits to Israel were the bright spots in his otherwise bleak life. Schindler died in obscurity in 1974, but his final wish was honored. He was buried in Jerusalem. His grave is adorned with stones, a Jewish sign of remembrance, a lasting tribute to a flawed, righteous man. The world may have forgotten him, but those he saved never did. For decades, Schindler's story was known only to survivors. That changed in 1980 when author Thomas Keneally met survivor Poldek Pfefferberg. Inspired by Pfefferberg's files and passion, Keneally wrote Schindler's Ark, later known as Schindler's List, bringing the story to global attention. The book won the Booker Prize and ensured the story would not be lost to history. Director Steven Spielberg, moved by the tale, eventually brought it to the screen in 1993. Filmed in black and white, Schindler's List won 7 Academy Awards and reached millions worldwide. The film's final scene, with survivors placing stones on Schindler's grave, powerfully connected history to the present. Schindler became a symbol of courage and compassion. His legacy was now immortal. Oskar Schindler's story is a timeless lesson. Heroes are rarely perfect. He began on the wrong side of history, but when faced with evil, he changed. His life proves that the capacity for goodness exists in the most unlikely people. The descendants of the 1,200 he saved now number over 8,500, a living testament to his choices. Each new life is a victory over hatred, a spark from an extinguished world. Schindler's story warns us of the dangers of indifference and challenges us to act against injustice. His message is hope. One person can make a difference. He chose to care when the world told him not to, lighting a candle in the darkness. The power to change the world lies in the simple, courageous choice to act. Thank you for watching this story, one that reminds us that even in the darkest times, a single act of courage can light up the world. If this moved you, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more powerful stories from history that deserve to be remembered. Let's keep history alive together.